The G20 is a very important forum for all of us. We know that this is affecting majority of the global economy, trade, as well as investment.
With the humble and hospitality of Indonesia, welcome. We achieved some promising progress through multilaterism, through G20.
At the end of 2021, we've paved the road to 2022's G20 presidency, promoting Recover Together, Recover Stronger as its main theme. The first Finance and Central Bank Deputies meeting in the Indonesian presidency has established 6 priority agendas in the finance track that will be discussed throughout 2022. Now, it's time to get the wheels turning. One of the most crucial agenda in the Indonesian presidency is exit strategy to support recovery. COVID-19 has led to a severe global recession. In response, countries have taken unprecedented fiscal and monetary policies to protect the economy. These policies, along with the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, has brought positive outcomes. Economic activities had begun to resume. Nevertheless, recovery doesn't come as a one-size-fits-all item. Advanced economies are recovering much faster than their emerging markets counterpart, while low-income countries are lagging. The different timings of exit policies can potentially bring negative spillover effect for countries. To mitigate these risks, a well-planned, well-calibrated, and well-communicated exit strategy is needed. Under Indonesia's presidency, the G20 countries and invitees will work together to create policy settings for a smooth exit strategy. Discussions will be held in the working group level as well as high-level meetings. For it is our duty to ensure that emerging from this pandemic, no one gets left behind. Recover together, recover stronger.
Hari ini ada rencana kemana? Kamu masih aktif kerja di luar ya? Masa pandemi gini memang banyak sektor yang terkena dampaknya. Cuma beberapa sektor strategis aja yang boleh beroperasi, tentu dengan berbagai syarat yang harus dipenuhi. Ada sih yang beruntung masih bisa kerja dari rumah, tapi banyak juga yang tetap harus keluar untuk cari uang, kayak kamu. Kalau gitu harus didukung dengan stamina yang kuat dan protokol kesehatan yang ketat. Kamu udah bawa masker cadangan kan? Hand sanitizer juga jangan lupa. Jaga kebersihan dan rajin cuci tangan ya. Aku gak akan bosan ngingetin kamu soal ini. Jauhi kerumunan dan hindari kontak fisik dengan orang lain. Kalau ada keperluan transaksi sehari-hari, mending pakai cara pembayaran non-tunai aja. Kan udah banyak tempat yang nyediain cara pembayaran pakai kris. Tinggal scan kode krisnya pakai aplikasi pembayaran di handphone. Lebih aman kan bayar tanpa bersentuhan? Aku sadar, meski sama-sama menghadapi pandemi, kita punya perjuangan yang berbeda-beda. Tapi dalam menghadapi virus ini, kita harus saling jaga. Jaga diri biar nggak ketularan, dan jaga jarak biar nggak menularkan sekitar. Yuk pakai masker 2 lapis. Semangat kerjanya!
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon us. Shalom. Om Swastiastu. Namo Buddhaya. Salam kebajikan. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you to attending the meeting in this venue and virtually. We hope everyone in the good health and gladly to inform that all invited guests and crew have taken PCR test and received negative result while maintaining strict COVID-19 health protocol. I'm Devi Permata, and it is my honor to welcome all of you to the seminar of Recover Stronger, Shifting Toward Higher Value-Added Industries as a side event for G20 Presidency of Indonesia 2022. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to the Honorable Mr. Dody Budi Waluyo, Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia, Mr. Solikin M. Juhro, Head of Economic and Monetary Policy Department of Bank Indonesia, Mr. Ignatius Warsito, Expert Staff for the Minister of Industry in the field of strengthening domestic industry capabilities, Mr. Henry Pima, Senior Economist of the Asian Development Bank, Mr. Alexander Barus, Chief Executive Officer PT Indonesia Morowali Industry Park, Head of Department and Representative Offices of Bank Indonesia, representative from ministries and institutions, and last but not least, a very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all distinguished guests and participants. Ladies and gentlemen, this seminar purposed to get a comprehensive view from the expert regarding the strategy to develop higher value-added downstream industries, as it is a prerequisite for Indonesia's transformation toward an advanced economy. This requires the support of a strong current account structure underpinned by a robust manufacturing sector. The undertaking to develop manufacturing sector needs to be taken in stages. One of the major strategies that has become the main concern of the government is to develop higher value-added downstream industries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to begin with, allow us to invite the Honorable Mr. Dody Budi Waluyo, Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia, to give the opening remarks. Please welcome Mr. Dody Budi Waluyo.
Of Industry, our colleagues, Mr. Solikin M. Juhro, Bank Indonesia, Mr. Alexander Barus from Morowali Industrial Park, colleagues, ministries, and institutions, business association, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon. First of all, I would like to extend my warm welcome to distinguished speakers, participants, both joining offline at the Jakarta Convention Center, online platform, and through Bank Indonesia official channel. It is my great pleasure to deliver an opening remarks in this manufacturing seminar as a side event of G20 with the theme Recover Stronger, shifting toward higher value-added industries. The theme of this seminar is motivated by the G20 theme, Recover Together, Recover Stronger. The theme is also in line with the government's strategy to boost Indonesia's economic growth through the development of downstream industries. Today's seminar will focus on discussing the importance of downstreaming of natural resources. In more broad perspective, we will also discuss the challenges in developing the manufacturing sectors and policy responses so that it can support Indonesia's transformation toward an advanced economy. Indonesia economy recovery momentum continues. In the fourth quarter, our economy, 2021, domestic economy expanded by 5.02% year-on-year, improving from 3.51% year-on-year in the previous period. Broad gains were recorded across most economic sectors. Overall, the economy grew by 3.69%, close to 3.7% in 2021, reversing contraction in 2022. Domestic economy is expected to further accelerate to 4.7% until 5.5% in 2022. They will be supported by a faster vaccination program, broader reopening of the economic and policy stimulus. To ensure the sustainability and inclusiveness of the recovery, economic structure needs to be continuously strengthened. We need support from a strong current account sector, underpinned by a robust manufacturing sector, which can be achieved by developing higher value-added downstream industries, especially for mineral resources. Downstreaming of mineral resources is necessary for three main reasons. The first, the formation of downstream industries will create higher value added, thereby supporting the exports and making Indonesia more connected of the global value chain. The second point, the creation of the downstream industries will reduce import dependency of higher value-added manufacturing products. The third, the development of higher value-added industries will form a domestic linkage with the supporting industries, thereby achieving a more inclusive growth. These three main reasons underlie the raw materials export policy that the government has implemented since 2022. Going forward, downstreaming of mineral resources will also benefit the transition towards greener economy, considering that products of downstreaming industries, such as nickel, are the main input for products that supported green transition. The agenda of mineral resources downstreaming continues to be put forward due to its large potential. Some of the potentials include Indonesia's the largest endowment, government's strong commitment by providing a large number of incentives, and the potential demand for downstream industry products ranging from the electric vehicles to green energy products. With mineral resources downstreaming have the potential to give youth benefits, there are still also a number of challenges ahead. The impact of the household consumption on the transition needs to be observed further and to be mitigated. In addition, the added value generated from the smelting stage needs to be optimized. While also the downstream industries have not developed much, waste management is also a challenge, considering that the method of storing or disposing of waste imposes higher costs. Moreover, the implementation of green industry standards for downstream industries is not yet available. I believe these issues need to be solved together with a good intention, clear mind, calibrated action, and strong synergy. Amidst the various potential and challenges, we should strive and work together to ensure the mineral resources downstreaming will continue to strengthen the economic structure. This will support the achievement of Indonesia's vision to become an advanced economy. Here, Bank Indonesia is committed to support the government program in developing manufacturing sectors and downstream industries. Together with the government, we have created a detailed mapping of all subsectors of manufacturing. Based on this mapping, we communicate with the financial institution regarding the potential of these subsectors, thereby minimizing the asymmetric information between real sectors and financial sectors. Distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, before closing my remarks, allow me again to express my appreciation and sincere gratitude to distinguished speakers for their willingness to share their expertise and knowledge. I would like to give my appreciation to the Joint Committee of the G20 Indonesia Presidency team for arranging this excellent event. I wish all have an enriching and fruitful discussion. Finally, I'm delighted to officially open this seminar. Thank you, stay safe, and stay healthy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Dody Budi Waluyo, Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia, for giving the opening remarks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on, we would like to invite online participants to join the photo session in order to celebrate this moment. And we would also like to invite Mr. Solikin M. Juro and Mr. Tommy Chokro to join us in the stage. We might have to do 2 takes, and to all participants joining us online, kindly turn your camera on and give your best smile. Alright, let us prepare to take picture. On my count, in 3, 2, 1. Alright, once again, on my count, in 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. It's very nice to see happy smile this afternoon. Distinguished guests, we have seen the opening of seminar Recover Stronger, shifting toward higher value-added industries. Once again, allow us to express our sincere gratitude to Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia, Mr. Dody Budi Waluyo, for joining us in this event. And now we kindly request all participants to join us in our next agenda, which is the panel discussion. Dear participants, as we are about to start the seminar with Mr. Tommy Chokro leading the discussion. Mr. Tommy Chokro is the Chief of Content at Badiku. He is also the lead anchor of one of the biggest TV station in Indonesia. As an entrepreneur, he is the co-founder of Sepikul Indonesia Communication Fabric. He became a moderator for 2019 Indonesia President Election Debate and also for 2018 Central Java Regional Election Debate. Without further ado, I would like to invite our moderator for today's session, Mr. Tommy Chokro, to commence the panel discussion.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings everyone, and of course, may be blessed with a great health. Again, thank you, Ms. Devi, for your kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the seminar of Recover Stronger, Shifting Toward Higher Value-Added Industries as side event for the G20 Presidency of Indonesia 2022. Allow me to introduce myself. Again, I am Tommy Chokro, very honored to be here to moderate the upcoming discussion. So thank you to Bank Indonesia, His Excellency Bapak Budi, maksud kami Bapak Dody, Budi Waluyo, Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia. And we are very fortunate to be able to discuss these upcoming topics with prominent speakers from Bank Indonesia, the Ministry of Industry, and also the Asian Development Bank, with the theme of Recover Stronger, Shifting Toward Higher Value-Added Industries. As mentioned earlier, the manufacturing sector is one of the key pillars of development toward Indonesia's Vision 2045. One of the major strategies that has become the main concern of the government is to develop higher value-added downstream industries. Some of the potential include Indonesia's large endowment government's strong commitment to encourage the forming of the downstream industries, providing large number of incentives, also the potential demand for downstream industries products, of course ranging from electric vehicles to green energy products. So there are a number of structural challenges, such as the impact on household consumption. The added value generated from the smelting stage is still limited, while the downstream industries have not developed much. Waste management, and of course the implementation of green industry through green industry standards for downstream industries is not yet available. And lastly, additional challenges, such as other incentives and issue on market orientation are challenges we need to solve together. The central bank, Bank Indonesia, is eager to support the development of Indonesia's manufacturing sector and development downstream industries. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to share their expertise and knowledge from these distinguished guests. Allow me to invite all speakers, including reading their short bio. First, Mr. Dr. Solikin M. Juhro from Bank Indonesia is an Executive Director and the Head of Economic and Monetary Policy Department, Bank Indonesia. And prior to his current position, he served as the head of Bank Indonesia Institute for 5 years, from 2016 to 2021. He has been extensively involved with monetary policy and of course analysis and research, and has spoken on academic and central banking issues at various national and international events, and is an instrumental editor of the Bank Indonesia Bulletin of Monetary Economies and Banking at Q2, and his current research focuses on macroeconomic transformation, central bank policy, and frontier issues in economic development, some of which have been published in international outlets in the form of books and journal articles with Dr. Peri Warjio. He wrote a leading reference book entitled Central Bank Policy, Theory and Practice, published by Emerald Publishing London at 2019. Again, welcome, Bapak Juhro. And the next guest, joining us virtually, Bapak Ignatius Warsito from Ministry of Industry. Born in Surakarta, expert staff for Ministry of Industry in the field of strengthening domestic industry capabilities. Before becoming expert staff for the Ministry of Industry, Mr. Ignatius Warsito previously served as the Director of Cement, Ceramics, and Non-Metal Mineral Processing Industry. And he also previously served as the Director of Industrial region in the Ministry of Industry. He holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Diponegoro University at 1988, Semarang. Then he continued his education at Cleveland State University, USA, and earned his master's in business and administration. Again, welcome to Mr. Warsito.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And also joining us virtually, Mr. Henry Ma is a senior country economist at the Indonesia resident mission of the Asian Development Bank. Immediately before joining ADB, he was adjunct faculty at New York University and the City University of New York, teaching courses in economic development, macroeconomics, international economics, corporate finance, and econometrics, and he was also a senior economist at the International Monetary Fund, working on Korea, Vietnam, Uruguay, Azerbaijan, Colombia, Macedonia, and Afghanistan, and served as the fund resident representative in Honduras. He holds degrees from University of the Philippines and the University of Cambridge and the University of Pennsylvania. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Good afternoon to Mr. Henry Ma. Again, thank you for joining us today, gentlemen, and allow me to inform you that to each speakers will have 15 minutes of presentation time and followed at the end of the session by responses and discussions from the discussants. Then also question and answer from participants who's joining us today virtually. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Bapak Solihin M. Juro.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon, resource persons and participants. So, first of all, let us extend our gratitude to God Almighty, since only with His blessing and permission we can congregate here to have our practicing in the special forums, G20 side events, and during the challenges time. So, in the current pandemic challenges, this forum is very timely because it reflects our commitment to have or contribute to Indonesian and also the global economy to recover our economy. And we can see that in the last few years that we have significant progress in our recovery process, and it reflects that there is a good quality coordination amongst policy authorities in Indonesia. In this case, government, central bank, and other related authorities has same perspective or what is common issues and challenges that facing the economy and how to address it. So we can see why Indonesia is among the best country with a good performance in the recovery process. So without further ado, may I start my presentation, Pak Tommy? So how do we portray our vision of 2045? In line with the achievement of Indonesian vision to become a developed or advanced sovereign country by 2045, solid and sustainable economic growth is urgently needed. Growth performance, which continues to be at a relative high level, have pushed Indonesian income per capita to the upper middle income category. However, the pandemic has changed the trajectory toward a developed country. The government and other Indonesian policy authorities consistently strive to improve the economy which affected by COVID-19 through various policies in order to accelerate the recovery. More effort needed and to be done. So we can still pave the way to become a high-income country. Inshallah, that we can have or escape from the middle income trap in 2036, and we can achieve our vision 2045 to be advanced and sovereign country. Indonesia now, we have GDP per capita stand around to 3,900 per year. So this is close to the border of lower and upper middle income. What we believe is that successful structural reforms will leverage growth potential and faster economic engine. This led us to avoid the middle income trap. In this case, along with the growing discussion among us that in the economists and also analysts in developing countries, including Indonesia, the government has set pillars of Indonesian vision to achieve solid and sustainable growth, and here manufacturing sector becomes one of the key development pillars toward the vision. The manufacturing sector needs to be strengthened through downstream integration and encouraging sustainable industries. With this target, the role of the manufacturing sector is expected to increase sharply and consistently become the engine of economic growth. So we move to the next slide. While significant progresses and recovery efforts are still taking place, there is just a lot of homework to do. Strengthening the structure of the manufacturing sector faces challenges. We identify there are at least three main challenges. Strengthening the manufacturing sector entails prioritizing high-value added export, considering that Indonesian exports are currently dominated by low-tech products. One way to increase high-value added export is to improve Indonesian global value chain participation. The literature suggests that it typically requires effort to improve the absorptive capacities of local-owned firms, the efficiency of local supply networks, and the quality of the workforce in the sectors. So this strategy needs to be carried out considering the role of domestic inputs in exported goods for selected industry measured by domestic value added ratio. Furthermore, when it is associated with the challenges of export structure by technological level, the increase in the technological level of export products in selected industries during the period of 2017-2020 is limited except for the metal industry. The effort in strengthening the manufacturing sector must be accompanied by import substitution measures, of course, considering that the high dependence on imported raw materials. Currently, import of finished goods and raw material for industry reach around 90% of total import. The sustainability of import is at risk due to the concentration of import sources in a few trading partner countries, one of which is China, which reached around 30%, and this risk may strengthen in line with the increasing trend of inward-looking policy. And as we know, supply disruption occur during pandemic, such as global shipping and container shortage, power rationing in China, and also semiconductor shortage. Although the disruption has not had a direct impact on Indonesia's export and import, but it had raised concern about the sustainability of our manufacturing sector's activities. Based on those challenges, strengthening the structure of the manufacturing sector needs to be pursued through strengthening domestic linkages, which will increase import substitution, high value added export, and also economic linkage between the regions. In addition, this effort must also consider the growing trend toward a green economy as the overarching direction of future global economic development to reduce carbon emission. In the next slide, at this stage, we believe that downstream industry will support economic sustainability. In the continuous effort to boost Indonesia's economic growth, the government has stated that there are three economic strategies: the development of downstream industry, the digitalization of micro, small, and medium enterprises, and development of green economy. Regarding the first strategy, Indonesia currently focuses on processing commodities into ready-to-use products. The benefit of downstream to the economy underlies the raw materials export ban that the government has implemented since 2020. Given the positive impact of the export ban, the government plans to gradually expand the implementation of export ban of raw materials to encourage export of semi-finished or finished goods. Moreover, from the other side, we acknowledge that the pivotal role of Bank Indonesia, the Central Bank of Indonesia, along with its mandate, Bank Indonesia to achieve rupiah stability for sustainable economic growth through optimizing macroeconomic policy mix strategy by integrating central bank countercyclical demand management policies and supporting structural reform. In this regard, Bank Indonesia is actively coordinating with the government regularly. It includes promoting some strategic initiative in the expanded KSSK forum, that is a Committee for Financial System Stability, to overcome economic debottlenecking and encouraging downstream industry. So, speaking of the benefit, export of downstream industry product, say iron and steel, record a positive growth amid contracted growth of manufacturing export. However, import of raw material for metal industry relatively large compared to other industry. From here, we can draw a common concern that the government or the development of downstream industry will contribute to stabilizing the national economy amidst the fluctuating market condition for the commodities. In the next slide, we see that now we will look at the profile of downstream industry from an economic perspective. As we all noted that downstream industry have high competitiveness accompanied by stronger linkages. In terms of competitiveness, mineral downstream products have relatively high comparative advantage, especially nickel-based product. The product of nickel downstream is strongly supported by the large endowment, considering that Indonesia is a key player in the global nickel mining. From our mapping using input-output table, there is a significant increase of role of outside of Java in providing inputs for the metal industry in Java, which means that interregional linkage become stronger. Also, prospect of downstream industry supported by large number of investment for the next few years as a result government policy reform in recent years. In brief, our downstream industry are highly competitive. These industries are capable to support the economic growth to become inclusive and attract huge investment in order to increase industrial capacity and capability in the long run. In the next slide, we see that, in addition to the prospect, there are several issues about how downstreaming can expand its benefit to the economy. An increase of export in 2021 is expected to contribute positively to the recovery of consumption. However, the increase in export was driven more by the increase in natural resource-based commodity prices, especially coal, metal ore, and CPO. On the other hand, the increment of export income is not fully transmitted to labor wages. Higher wages increase occurred for workers in the agricultural sector, particularly plantation, as reflected in the increase in the plantation farmer term of trade. Meanwhile, the increase in wages in the mining sector was limited, not as high as the increase in profit for mining corporations. In addition, The impact of increasing mining performance on the other sectors is also limited due to the low forward linkages. This indicates that downstreaming of the mining sector needs to be encouraged to expand its impact on the economy. Let me close my presentation with taking about that prospect of the downstream industry also leaves some challenges ahead. In terms of production factors, from several challenges we have identified in our internal assessment that we can highlight a challenge related to quality mismatch of existing metal industry products with the automotive industry supply chains. Here, building cooperation with large industry through business matching or link and match schemes that have been initiated by government and also Bank Indonesia need to be accelerated. In terms of regulations, green industry standard for the downstream industry, which are not yet available, need our attention. We'll be thankful our fellow resource person from the Ministry of Industry might be able to shed more light on this issue. Meanwhile, the challenges in terms of market access, mainly related to the large investment costs. While foreign investment in downstream industry has larger share, there is no strong commitment yet to direct some of their products to support the development of domestic downstream industry. In that case, encouraging export disincentive policies for certain products or applying tariff harmonization for incentivizing downstream industry development might be a good option. All things considered, these challenges become the basis for us to formulate the right policies so that the Indonesian vision of 2045 can be achieved together. Together we can. I may stop here. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Solikin M. Juhro. You may go back to your seat. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the next one, to the next presentation, we would like to invite all who's joining us virtually to type your questions in our chat box, and later, after the third presentation, we will select 2 questions from the chat box and also invite one participant to ask directly or virtually to the speakers today. So now we can go on to the next speaker. I would like to invite Bapak Ignatius Warsito to deliver his presentation focusing on the challenges of downstreaming of mineral resources amidst green industry transition. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ignatius Warsito.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang kami hormati Bapak Deputi, Dody, Budi, Waluyo, yang berkenan mengundang kami dari Kementerian Perindustrian untuk bersama-sama berbagi dalam rangka G20 seminar Recovery Stronger, Shifting Toward Higher Value Added Industry dengan tema tantangan hilirisasi sumber daya mineral di tengah transisi industri hijau pada kali ini. Ibu Bapak sekalian, peserta seminar yang kami hormati, sebagaimana yang telah disampaikan oleh Bapak Solikin tadi pada kesempatan pertama, kami ingin berbagi dalam rangka bagaimana dan mengapa hilirisasi sumber daya mineral, khususnya batu bara dan nikel, sangat penting bagi Indonesia dalam upaya mengubah sumber daya batu bara yang melimpah menjadi energi bersih dan berpartisipasi dalam global value chain baterai electric vehicle. Baik, Ibu Bapak sekalian, kami mulai dengan slide kedua kami. bahwasanya Indonesia adalah pengekspor batubara termal terbesar di dunia. Penjual ke Cina, Jepang, Vietnam, dan India. Menurut Kementerian SDM, data Desember 2019, Indonesia memiliki sumber daya batubara sebesar 143.730.000 atau juta ton dan cadangan batubara sebesar 38.850 juta ton. Karena sumber daya batubara yang melimpah, kita perlu menemukan cara untuk menggunakan sumber daya tersebut menjadi listrik, hidrogen, batu bakar bersih, dan bahan kimia bernilai tambah dengan cara yang paling efisien dan terbersih. Dalam laporan McKinsey dan company-nya, Indonesia memiliki salah satu pasar potensial tertinggi di dunia untuk electric vehicle, terutama untuk kendaraan roda 2 pada tahun 2030. Indonesia diharapkan memiliki penjualan tahunan sebesar 1,2 juta electric vehicle roda 2 dan 1,5 juta electric vehicle roda 4. Dan selanjutnya, karena listrik tersebut dapat membantu mengurangi ketergantungan Indonesia pada minyak. Diperkirakan impor minyak dapat dipotong sebesar 100 juta US dollar per tahun untuk setiap 1 juta mobil listrik di jalan-jalan Indonesia. Oleh karena itu, pengembangan industri hilir menjadi kunci optimalisasi hasil tambang, mineral, dan batu bara. Baik, Bapak sekalian, di slide berikutnya kami ingin mencoba bahwa Indonesia memiliki sumber daya batu bara sebesar 143.730 juta ton dan cadangan batu bara sebesar 38.000 juta ton, sedangkan kebutuhan batu bara dalam negeri di tahun 2020 hanya 130 juta ton, baik untuk energi maupun bahan baku industri. Cadangan batu bara dapat bertahan hingga 2091 dengan tingkat produksi tahunan 600 juta ton, dengan asumsi tidak ada cadangan baru, apalagi diproyeksikan hanya 200 juta ton kebutuhan batu bara pada tahun 2024. Pengguna utama batu bara adalah listrik dari PLN sekitar 66%, pengolahan dan pemurnian sekitar 16%, dan semen sekitar 7% dari kebutuhan batu bara di Indonesia. Baik, buat sekalian, di slide berikutnya bahwa saat ini Indonesia menggunakan gasifikasi untuk mengolah sumber daya yang kaya akan batu bara menjadi produk lanjutannya dengan nilai tambah yang lebih tinggi. Gasifikasi adalah proses di mana bahan berbasis karbon seperti batu bara, okas minyak bumi, dan biomasa diubah menjadi syngas yang dapat digunakan untuk menghasilkan listrik bersih, bahan bakar transportasi, dan bahan kimia secara efisien dengan menggunakan sumber daya bahan bakar domestik. Dengan gasifikasi, batu bara dapat diubah menjadi dimethyl ether atau DME yang berfungsi sebagai pengganti liquid petroleum gas atau LPG dengan nilai 5,7 kali lebih tinggi dari batu bara mentah. Dengan gasifikasi, batu bara juga dapat diubah menjadi metanol dan bensin dengan nilai 4,5 dan 5,9 kali lebih tinggi dari batu bara mentah. Ibu Bapak sekalian, di slide berikutnya kami juga menyampaikan data-data terkait gasifikasi batu bara menjadi krusial, bukan hanya karena 75% konsumsi LPG Indonesia berasal dari impor, di mana import LPG pada tahun 2020 mencapai 2,5 miliar US dollar dan produksi LPG oleh Pertamina sebagai produksi tunggal menurun setiap tahun. Produk hilirisasi batubara merupakan DME, dapat menggantikan LPG. DME merupakan senyawa bening, tidak berwarna, ramah lingkungan, dan tidak beracun, tidak merusak ozon, tidak menghasilkan partikulat dan noaksid, tidak mengandung belerang, memiliki nyala biru, dan memiliki komponen yang mirip dengan LPG, yaitu terdiri dari propana dan butana. Produk hilir batubara penting lainnya adalah metanol yang dapat digunakan dalam blending metanol dan atau alkohol untuk mengurangi defisit bensin Indonesia. Untuk setiap tahunnya batubara dapat dikonversi untuk menghasilkan 0,72 ton metanol atau 0,36 ton DME. Konsumsi metanol diproyeksikan meningkat untuk industri petrokimia, menengah, hilir, sebagai metanol atau sebagai bahan baku DME, biodiesel, dan bensin. Ibu Bapak sekalian, di Indonesia juga memiliki 2 proyek gasifikasi batubara yang mengkonversi batubara menjadi metanol dan DME. Proyek gasifikasi batubara menjadi metanol yang beroperasi di Kutai Timur, kerjasama antara Bumi, Ithaka Group, dan Air Product. Proyek gasifikasi batubara menjadi DME yang berlokasi di Tanjung Enim, kerjasama antara PT Bukit Asam dengan Pertamina dan Air Product. Selanjutnya, proyek gasifikasi batubara menjadi metanol diharapkan mulai beroperasi komersial pada tahun 2024 dengan kapasitas 1,8 juta ton per tahun. Kemudian juga proyeksi dari proyek gasifikasi batubara menjadi DME diharapkan menjadi mulai beroperasional pada tahun 2024 dengan kapasitas 1 juta ton per tahun. Baik, Ibu Bapak sekalian, di slide berikutnya kami juga melihat bahwa nikel yang cocok untuk baterai adalah jenis 1 yang mengandung 99,8% nikel. Sedangkan jenis kedua, terutama untuk produksi baja tahan karat, Indonesia memiliki kedua jenis nikel tersebut. Selanjutnya, pada tahun 2018, laporan Bloomberg menyatakan bahwa para pemimpin industri baterai dunia seperti Tesla, LG Chem, BMW beralih dari katoda nikel tinggi untuk meningkatkan defisit baterai. Alhasil, nikel yang dibutuhkan untuk baterai kendaraan akan semakin banyak berasal dari Indonesia. Di slide berikutnya, di Indonesia, beberapa smelter telah beroperasi dan sedang dibangun untuk memasok material bagi industri baterai yang telah mulai. PT Wawe Nickel Cobalt, PT YMB New Energy Material sudah beroperasi. Kemudian juga seperti yang bisa kita lihat di peta lokasi smelter, area yang ditandai dengan warna kuning adalah lokasi smelter yang sedang dibangun. Suku cadangnya yang ditunjukkan dengan warna biru adalah perusahaan penghasil baterai. Di slide berikutnya, meningkatkan nilai tambah menuju hilir produk baterai sangat penting karena efek pengadaan harga yang luar biasa. Nilai tambah sel baterai relatif terhadap harga biji sekitar 90 sampai 150 kali. Kemudian di slide berikutnya kami juga ingin menunjukkan tabel tersebut menunjukkan bahwa kondisi ketersediaan komponen di dalam negeri saat ini untuk pembuatan baterai, motor, pengontrol, untuk sepeda motor listrik, sementara beberapa komponen masih diimpor. Bahan yang dibutuhkan untuk memproduksi suku cadang ini tersedia di dalam negeri, misalnya kawat, kabel kawat untuk pengontrol terutama terbuat dari tembaga dan aluminium. Logam ini tersedia di dalam negeri. Seperti tantangan untuk produksi sel baterai, kita harus mengembangkan teknologinya untuk menghasilkan kabel kawat berkualitas tinggi yang kompatibel dengan permintaan baru di industri kendaraan listrik yang sedang berkembang di dalam negeri. Di slide berikutnya, Ibu sekalian, bahwasanya kekuatan industri kendaraan listrik dan baterai Indonesia terletak pada sumber daya pertambangan yang melimpah dan beragam untuk memproduksi baterai. Populasi usia produktif yang tinggi yang dapat berfungsi baik sebagai pasar maupun sumber daya manusia dan pengalaman dalam pembuatan kendaraan mesin pembakar internal. Namun, meskipun kita diberkahi dengan sumber daya, pengetahuan teknologi yang diperlukan untuk produksi baterai saat ini belum tersedia. Ada beberapa ancaman yang dapat menjadi penghalang bagi inisiatif teknologi pesaing seperti kendaraan berbasis sel bahan bakar hidrogen, baterai non-nikel yang lebih terjangkau, berfokus hanya pada nikel, akan menimbulkan ancaman karena nikel sangat mahal. Baik, Bapak sekalian, di slide berikutnya kami juga ingin melihat ada 6 faktor pendukung munculnya industri kendaraan listrik dan baterai ini, yaitu penetapan harganya, teknologinya, kebijakannya, penanam modalnya, infrastruktur, sosialisasi dan pemasaran, serta kepatuhan dengan praktek dan sertifikasi berkelanjutan. Bapak Ibu selanjutnya di slide berikutnya, dalam upaya transisi industri hijau, kami telah mengeluarkan kebijakan untuk target dalam kontribusi yang ditentukan secara nasional, efisiensi, energi terbarukan. Tidak hanya kebijakan tersebut, kami juga melakukan langkah-langkah penurunan emisi gas ruang kaca di sektor industri dan mendukung fasilitasi insentif untuk industri hijau. Kami juga telah menunjukkan kepada Ibu Bapak sekalian bahwa dengan semua tantangan, transisi industri hijau tidak hanya memiliki potensi, tetapi juga dicapai sehingga kita semua dapat pulih lebih kuat dengan industri bernilai tambah dan berkelanjutan. Saya pikir demikian yang bisa kami sampaikan pada kesempatan ini. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Mr. Ignatius Varsito for your presentation. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind all of you to just type the questions in our chat box, and later, after the third presentation, we will select 2 questions, and we will also invite 1 participant to ask directly or virtually to the speakers today. And now, I would like to invite Mr. Henry P. Ma, who is joining this event virtually, to deliver his presentation with the focus of the impact of downstreaming of mineral resources to economic equality. Good afternoon, Mr. Ma, for joining us today.
Terima kasih Pak Jokro. Selamat sore to everyone. First slide, please. On behalf of Pa Jiro Tominaga, Country Director of the Indonesia Resident Mission of the Asian Development Bank, I would like to convey to Bank Indonesia, to Deputy Governor Dody, Budi, Waluyo, Pa Juro, and Pa Warsito, Pa Jiro's best wishes for this seminar and his regrets that he cannot be present due to unforeseen circumstances. ADB is deeply honored to be invited to participate in this event. ADB has a long record of cooperation with and support for Indonesia's development efforts. Recover Stronger is the theme of Indonesia's chairmanship of the G20, which ADB strongly supports. Indonesia has indeed taken a strong role in shaping the agenda of critical measures needed to ensure that the global economy surmounts the pandemic. Nevertheless, the new waves of COVID-19 are a reminder that the pandemic is not over yet. We must therefore keep the pandemic in check by advancing on vaccination, testing, and treatment. ADB is currently preparing, not yet, still on the first slide, please. ADB is currently preparing the next Asian Development Outlook, which will be released on April 6. We hope that the participants in today's seminar can virtually attend the launch of the report on that day. Right now, we expect the region's recovery will continue despite the spread of Omicron. For this year, we expect regional GDP to increase by 5.3% as growth returns to more normal rates. For Indonesia, domestic activity may be temporarily restrained this quarter as people stay home because they are sick or to avoid getting sick. The economy, however, has shown resilience. As Deputy Governor Waluyo has noted, growth bounced back in the fourth quarter after being temporarily stalled in the third, and growth was 3.69% in the full year. For this year, we currently project growth of about 5%, which is close to Bank Indonesia's current projection of 4.7 to 5.5% for 2022. For the medium to long term, the reordering of global supply chains, the potential for green growth, and the relocation of industries will provide opportunities for Indonesia to insert into global value chains. This seminar's theme, therefore, of shifting toward higher value-added industries and promoting a robust manufacturing sector is timely. Next slide, please. In this connection, ADB, jointly with Bapenas, did a study on policies to support the development of manufacturing 2020 to 2024. We believe that its findings can also help guide the current drive to promote manufacturing by downstreaming mineral resources to foster higher value-added industries. What did the study do? The study sought to understand the causes behind the declining role of manufacturing as an engine of growth. The study also identified policies to reverse this declining importance, and it looked into the role of resource-based production and how Indonesia can move up the value ladder. The study noted that Indonesia's shift toward manufacturing was later than in other high-performing East Asian economies, and it attributes this lag to Indonesia's natural resource abundance, in particular the oil boom and its effects on the structure of production and exports. The study also notes, however, that Indonesia has already had a wide range of incentives to some manufacturing sectors, but that these may have been poorly designed and implemented. Jiro's remarks, therefore, which I'm delivering on his behalf, will in some places take the nature of caveats rather than recommendations per se. Let us start with the theme of these remarks, which is the impact of downstreaming of mineral resources on economic equality. The objective of equity has typically been associated with redistribution, that is, using taxes and subsidies to achieve a more equitable post-tax distribution of income or wealth. In some cases, however, pre-distribution can also be powerful in promoting equity. With pre-distribution, government should try to prevent inequities arising in the first place. instead of later ameliorating them through taxes and subsidies. At the least, this requires that governments should at the outset be aware of the distributional impact of their measures. How does pre-distributive awareness relate to downstreaming resources for industrialization? First, we should note that the mining sector, the processing sector, which one would expect would be the focus of downstreaming, is generally capital intensive and does not employ much labor. The mining sector accounts for 1% of all workers, while the service sector employs 49%. The capital intensity of mining is evident from the fact that output per worker in mining is about 8 times larger than output per worker in services. Hence, there may be limited scope for direct trickle down from promoting the mining sector. Second, because manufacturing will typically require workers with higher skill levels, Indonesian workers who currently lack such skills may be left out of the growth that is promoted. Third, related to this, workers with low skills are typically in the informal sector. Promotion policies that focus on the formal sector, therefore, may inadvertently leave out these informal workers, who are about 50% of all workers. Two pre-distributive measures therefore readily come to mind. First, promotion policies should not unduly incentivize capital-intensive production, since these would deter employment growth. We should note that people are resources too, and Indonesia is abundant in labor. Second, such promotion policies should be complemented with measures to improve education outcomes and skills formation to ensure that people will be able to benefit from this growth. Next slide, please. Let's now turn to policies to promote manufacturing growth. The manufacturing study has specific findings and recommendations. Among the findings, Indonesia's exports to global value chains are mainly products that are resource-based. And this matters because resource-based products tend to be low complexity and low value. And this you will see. For instance, Indonesia's 10 most complex products are below the world's top 10 most complex products. And Indonesia's most complex products tend to account for only a small share of Indonesia's total exports. Next slide, please. Of the 712 products in which Indonesia enjoyed revealed comparative advantage, the study identifies 59 products that are of above average complexity. So ideally, you want your products to be both above average and ones in which you have comparative advantage. Of these 59, 5 are resource-based, including ceramic wares, glassware, and transmission belts, while 54 are in areas like chemicals, computing, furniture, and textiles. Next slide, please. Importantly, the study identifies another 74 products with above average complexity, in which Indonesia does not currently have revealed comparative advantage, but into which it could feasibly move into. These include compound rubber products, flat-rolled stainless steel, and chlorides, just to mention a few. We strongly recommend the full study for the specific description of the methodology and of the products and sectors studied and recommended. Next slide, please. But the study also makes several cautions. First, the intention of product selection is not to pick winners in the old sense of industrial promotion. The purpose instead is for government and the private sector to jointly identify the promising products that Indonesia can move into. The ones that it already has comparative advantage in for upgrading, and the ones that it can feasibly move into that are more complex. The key question to ask, therefore, is to identify which sectors are experiencing market failure. Hence, as the study has noted, there has been a plethora of policies, but they may not have been implemented properly. And therefore, the key will be to avoid these pitfalls. And to do this, policymakers should strictly identify market failures that constrain the private sector and craft measures to specifically correct such failures. It's evident that to identify these market failures and correct them, private sector involvement will be essential. Next slide, please. In correcting these failures, the study notes several helpful guidelines, such as support activities, okay, not particular companies, and support ones that have spillover potential that can benefit other industries and sectors. Two additional guidelines are also quite important. Provide support in exchange for performance. So for instance, we will give you X support, but in 5 years, you should be able to meet certain export targets or quality levels. And importantly, set time limits for such support. If in X years, you are not yet feasible, then it will be time to end that support. And of course, always involve the private sector in discussing the provision of incentives and understanding constraints, and be careful not to suppress competition. Drawing on these insights, in 2021, ADB approved a $500 million policy-based loan for CHITA, Competitiveness, Industrial Modernization, and Trade Acceleration Program. What is CHITA? CHITA supports a set of policy actions to create an enabling environment for investment, ease barriers to trade, and help enterprises upscale. In particular, the program will help remove impediments for growth, especially for MSMEs. It will also foster upskilling of the workforce. CHITA is therefore consistent with the manufacturing studies caveat to, quote unquote, think twice about providing subsidies and incentives. The reforms that CHITA supports, by improving the business environment in general, will also help foster resource downstreaming and manufacturing growth in particular. It can also help ensure that industrialization is deeply rooted and durable. In all these efforts, ADB stands ready as always to provide support to the government of Indonesia in its efforts. This concludes Pak Jiro's remarks. Again, we would like to thank Bank Indonesia for the opportunity to speak at this important gathering. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Thank you so much, Mr. Henry Ma, for your presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the next one, from our speakers, we have learned that is it important that to strengthen the downstream industries to expand its benefits to the economy with high value added and import substitution. And second, mitigation action in the energy sector, such as the use of bioenergy, waste heat recovery, and refuse-derived fuel, or RDF, will be very interesting to be developed and have a great potential. And lastly, role of the government is crucial to involve private sectors for incentives and understanding constraints and foster competition. So now it's time to listen to the response from our discussants. Allow me to inform you that if you wish to ask, just type in our chat box to our speakers, and of course, we will select the questions that you will ask to all the speakers today. We will have Q&A session shortly after this upcoming session. So now, I would like to welcome our discussants today. First, let me introduce you Mr. Alexander Barus, who is the CEO of PT Indonesia Morowali Industrial Park, to give his response regarding to the topics which have been presented by our speakers today. Kepada Bapak Barus, the time is yours.
Baik, Pak Tommy, terima kasih. Yang terhormat Bapak Deputi Gubernur Indonesia Pak Dody, Budi Waluyo, distinguished from Asian Development Bank, Mr. Hendima, and also my colleague from Ministry of Industry, Pak Warsito, and the expert from Bank of Indonesia, Pak Solihin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan selamat siang, salam sehat. Distinguished participants, let me from the outset to iterate that I am now talking and convey my response from isolation room, because it happened that I'm infected now by Omicron. But don't worry, I will not transmit this Omicron to you through this seminar. But first, I'm glad that Bank Indonesia allow me to participate and give my response to all the distinguished speakers' opinion and presentation. Certainly, all the numbers, all the presentations are up to date and very clear. And I think this will contribute to achieve the goal of G20, which is stronger for together recovery. But before that, let me first reiterate again to all participants that I am happened that now I am CEO of Morowali Industrial Park. At the same time, I am also CEO for one of automobile manufacturing in Indonesia. The reason why I mentioned that because that will be interrelated, because we also producing electric car. So my position at the upstream and also in the downstream. Here, let me first introduce the language we may agree together later, that the way, the flow of thinking will be the same. To have the common understanding in simplest way, I will say that what we are talking today, value added, is the difference between the first slide, the difference between the price of product of service and the cost of producing it, in a simple way. So we would like to achieve the goal of maximize the difference. And the first speaker and the presentation mentioned that for Indonesia to enable to come to the vision of 2045, that we have to grow our value-added industry with higher and competitive one. This is the key. And the second, Pak Warsito said that so far there are projects to translate the coal in the process of gas gasification to methanol and DME. This is also downstreaming. And the sector of mineral, since 2014, there are many smelters built up in this country because of the ban of nickel ore export due to law number 4/2009. Today, we see how this nickel ore translates into ferronickel. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is a value-adding model. I would say that downstreaming without industrialization is only halfway to translate the industry to be vehicle to 2045. There are two sources of, in the mention also of Pak Henry Ma, that the study also identified about the products that mostly for export from Indonesia enter to global value chains, basically mostly resources-based products, which is quite low value added. In one side, Pak Henry Ma, this is something we achieved already for the last 10 years. But if we stay in that track for another 20 years, we will stay behind. Because what we export now, only the first stage of downstreaming. So in the model, there are two sources: renewable resources, which is like CPO, and non-renewable like nickel, for example. Now, before we go into downstreaming, to have a sustainable industry in the future, we have to rationalize the output from mining, particularly every year. We cannot extract as much as we can. We are not the biggest deposit owner of nickel in the world, no. We only have 11 billion identified deposit, only 4 billion metric ton estimated, only 1 billion proven. If we extract like we have now, in 10 years, no more nickel. So this should be our attention. Next, when downstreaming, that is my experience during we started Morowali. Morowali we started 10 years ago from no award, nothing, zero. Now we have there 34 companies. Investment almost 15 billion US dollar. Last year, we export almost $7 billion with tax 4.5 trillion rupiah. What I would say here, for downstreaming, that is not enough to say that we do downstreaming. For downstreaming resources, particularly non-renewable like coal, nickel and others, we need not only fiscal or monetary incentive, but the industry need other resources and facility. For example, in Morowali, we built all our infrastructure. Now we have 3,500 megawatt power plant there. We built our airport, we built our seaport, everything, with now 52,000 employees there. So this is only step one. So now in Morowali we have 44 lines. We produce 3.5 million metric ton stainless steel with hot rolled coil, but we prepare actually 500,000 metric ton cold rolled coil, which is ready to form for final product. But it is said that roll call we prepare for domestic industry, only about 20% demanded by local industry. What I'm trying to say here, that downstreaming is already there. But the next step, industrialization, is not there yet. The reason I need to say that we need to induce downstream industry for final product. Now, to cut the long story short, for nickel, there are two products we can produce. First, stainless steel. We are now planning to expand the capacity. The same with Pitcher Dragon, the same with Gunbuster. Next year, there will be almost 150 lines of smelter, of which will demand more than 100 million metric ton nickel per year. What implication in 10 years, our nickel will be no more. So we need to program this. Second line is the battery, the precursor for cathode of EV battery. Here, the problems is still there, and if the problem is not solved, we will never come to produce the precursor. What's the problem? The problem is the tiling from the process of high acid pressure leaching. Almost 60% of the output is waste tiling. In the first place, this will be deep sea tiling, but it's not allowed. Now we come to dam it on the land, but needs a huge size of land. So if this is not solved, then it's going to be very difficult for us to produce precursor cathode for EV with competitive price. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to convey here, that downstreaming to produce higher value-added products, it is not enough until downstream, which is produced the intermediate product.
Okay.
Downstreaming should be continued to level of industrialization to produce final product of which will produce higher value added, and like what the ADB study said, we will come to the complex products to global chain. Otherwise, we will stay always in the low value added, resources based global chain.
Okay.
So, and to end, in sum, my comments that all the presentations from downstreaming, I see stop until produce the intermediate product.
Okay.
But we need to complete the downstreaming with process of industrialization of the intermediate product to be final product. That's my comment. I hope this comment will something give us perspective. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Bapak Alexander Barus, for your point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for us to read some of the questions we have here. So first questions is from Miss Kathleen Ismaya. She asked, what is the role of the central bank or Bank Indonesia in maintaining economic stability while still supporting government's agenda in structural reform? So I believe this questions is dedicated to Bapak Solikin.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Tommy. This is a very interesting and important question. And yeah, this is the theme of this seminar, and also the theme of the policy discussion recently is how central bank and government try to strive the effort for conductive the policy synergy, strengthening policy synergy to recover and to promote economic growth. So, first of all, let me say that central bank policy should be taken as an integrated part of macroeconomic policy. So we cannot differentiate that this is central bank and this is not central bank. So it should be integrated part of central bank policy to achieve macroeconomic welfare. So here that central bank and government and other authority, policy authorities should have the common understanding how to deliver macroeconomic welfare in the country. And even in Bank Indonesia Act stipulated its mandate that to achieve and maintain rupiah stabilities should be integrated part of in order to achieve sustainable macroeconomic welfare. So this is the formal statement or thought that why central bank should be aware of and concerned on the macroeconomic welfare as a whole. And then in this interesting part that this is, where is my, okay, this is, yes, in the left panel, that this is, it can be seen that economic, to be advanced or to be step to the next level should be follow the cyclical and also structural pattern. So here that what central bank can do is actually with its instrument in manage in the demand side. So central bank usually have take a role, important role in demand side management through monetary policy, macroprudential policy, and also payment system policy. But to go to the next level, to be an advanced country or more developed country, we cannot just follow the short-term and cyclical pattern. We have to leverage our economy to the higher tier, to the higher path. So this is the essence of the structural improvement of the country, of the economy. That's why we have to move together, whether not only just to manage the cyclical policy, but also to the structural reform. So here, that based on the mandate to improve stability should be in line with the effort to manage or to achieve economic sustainability. Here what we do, of course, some part we can do it by our instrument, but because structural reform stem from the supply side issues, so central bank have no flexible instrument to do this, because this is the nature. But we coordinate with the government. As I mentioned, that policy synergy, policy coordination is the essential part. How we guide the economic stability, how we manage our economy to the higher level. So I can say that in the last 3 years, or I think maybe more 5 years, that quality of coordination between government and central bank is getting better and better. We have the similar or common sense on what is the problem that we are facing in the economy. That is structural issues. So, and then how we can deal with this issue. So in the practice, we have routine or intensive discussion on how to cope with the bottleneck of the economy, including in the forum, what we call KSSK, Financial System Stability Committee, that which is chaired by Ministry of Finance, and then the Governor of Central Bank, and also Chairman of the Deposit Insurance Company, and also FSA as a member. So this is the important thing, that in dealing with the situation with high uncertainties, including in the pandemic, and also how still we can not only just to recover from the the pandemic, but also we have to make sure that the achievement of the vision of 2045 can be managed well. So this is a coordination policy synergy is the key. And then Bank Indonesia play important role in the stimulating this coordination with the government. And then we can see also that that from the concept endogenous growth model, we can see that in order to leverage in the higher part, productivity is the important thing. The most important thing is how to drive the productivity. That's why I agree with Pak Barus about how the downstreaming policy should be taken as integrated part of industrialization policy. So this is, yes, I very agree with him. And then, so that is why we have to do that, not only with the investing to the physical capital, but also the human resource, and also to how to incorporating the benefit of the digitalization. So that's why what we are doing now as central bank, also developing infrastructure of payment system. This is important because we are facing now the more unknown era, which is the with faster digitalization. So blueprint of payment system and financial market deepening is also that we take more active in this context. So I think this is underlie what central bank, why we have concern to leverage the economy to the higher part, and then also how we to do this. So coordination and policy synergy is the key. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The key is comprehensive synergy. All right, thank you, sir. And now we move to the next one. We have live questions this time from our online participant, and his name is Fajar Behirawan from CSIS. So, Mr. Fajar, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mas Tommy, for the opportunity. So actually, I have two questions actually. So by having 19 to 20% contribution to GDP, I think it's very clear that the manufacturing sectors is the backbone of the Indonesian economy. But unfortunately, World Bank data in 2021 under the World Development Indicator or WDI reported that Indonesia only export less than 8% of high-tech products from its total export. So, well, I think this seminar or this webinar, I think is very necessary because, of course, shifting these sectors to have a higher value added and also high-tech product is needed to boost our economic growth. However, there are several things that I want to highlight. Number one, perhaps Pak Warsito could answer these questions. So regarding our traditional demand for primary, extractive, resource-based sector products, Dr. Henry Ma also mentioned that. So what has been done by the government, especially the Ministry of Industry or the Ministry of Trade, to create a demand from our new higher value added or high-tech products? Because in my understanding, shifting to the higher value products, it's mean that we have to creating a new demand. And number two, perhaps Dr. Ma or Dr. Solikin could answer these questions regarding the green economy and the low carbon development. I believe that this is also one of the, focus on the G20. So my question is, have we precisely calculated policy implications by shifting this sector to be a higher value added industry? Because I believe that we know that creating a new products, creating like a battery for the electric vehicles, also I think there will be a emission, like a carbon emission. So that's my question. Thank you, Mas Tommy.
Thank you, Mr. Fajar. Maybe the first question first untuk Bapak Warsito. Apa yang telah dilakukan oleh kementerian, khususnya berkolaborasi dengan Kementerian Perdagangan juga, untuk bisa memenuhi ya demand, traditional demand dengan higher value product. Mungkin Pak Warsito bisa langsung menjawab. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih atas yang menjadi pertanyaan bagaimana pemerintah bersama-sama di sini untuk mengisi daripada pasar-pasar tradisional dengan suatu produk-produk yang bernilai tambah tinggi. Pak Fajar, jadi pemerintah sekarang ini dalam hal ini Kementerian Perindustrian telah menerapkan kebijakan substitusi impor. Ini salah satu kebijakan yang mana poinnya bagaimana kita harapkan bahwa untuk pemenuhan bahan baku maupun bahan penolong bisa di-create dalam negeri. Dan tujuannya seperti halnya yang disampaikan Pak Alexander Barus. Jadi industri hijau ini merupakan industri yang berkelanjutan dan berdaya saing. Artinya apa-apa yang menjadi pohon industri yang kami letakkan dalam rencana induk depan dengan Making Indonesia 4.0, saya yakin bahwasanya beberapa produk yang kami tetapkan sebagai industri prioritas akan bisa mengisi pasar dalam negeri, apalagi ditambah dengan kebijakan TKDN. Jadi penggunaan program negeri akan mengakselerasi daripada produk-produk baru yang telah menjadi prioritas di dalam rencana induk kami. Seperti halnya yang sekarang kita dorong terus adalah Kementerian Kesehatan di bidang farmasi dan alat-alat kesehatan di masa pandemi ini. Salah satu solusi bagaimana kita ingin terus mendorong industri-industri dalam negeri misi dalam pasar dalam negeri. Walaupun demikian kita tetap fokus bagaimana mendorong ekspor ini dengan bagaimana kita menerapkan beberapa instrumen insentif yang mana tadi diharapkan menjadi suatu tarikan investasi ke dalam negeri, dan ini merupakan tema besar daripada keketuaan G20 kita untuk bagaimana Indonesia melalui industrialisasi ini menjadi tuan rumah sekaligus bagaimana Indonesia bisa bersama-sama dalam tagline recovery together, recovery stronger, untuk mengisi daripada pemulihan ekonomi. Saya pikir demikian Pak Tommy yang bisa saya sampaikan pada kesempatan ini. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Warsito. And I'm very sorry, Mr. Fajar, I have to skip the second questions because I need to read the other question as well. So thank you again for participating on our live feed here at our Zoom. Thank you. So now I have to move on to the last one from Mr. Dwianto Cahyo Sumirat is the head of Bank Indonesia Central Sulawesi Office, and the question is for Mr. Ignatius Warsito and Mr. Henry Ma. The question is, what should the local government do to support and boost higher value-added downstream industries while still prioritizing environmental aspect? So, Mr. Ma, you may answer this and followed by Mr. Warsito. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Pak. Thank you for that question, because there are two aspects there, but the role of local governments and environmental aspects. As Pa Juro has noted, coordination has been critical in getting Indonesia out of the economic downturn. And coordination will also be critical in promoting downstreaming, manufacturing, and development in general. What do I mean by that? I wouldn't focus on local government per se, but as I said, in coordination. So for instance, Bank Indonesia has played a critical role in macroeconomic stability, which is a prerequisite for fostering development. Local governments likewise, it will be important for local governments, national and regional governments, and the private sector to coordinate, because as you have noted, there are environmental aspects. I've only just arrived in Jakarta, and I've noted, for instance, small informal restaurants. One can imagine, for instance, that the smoke from cooking the small informal restaurants could bother the neighbors. Similarly, a mining project in a local government will have externalities, both negative as well as positive on its neighbors. And so that's why it will be important for coordinated efforts to ensure that such projects will indeed have positive net benefits. But I was also just add a final word, this not necessarily related to the role of local governments. Another thing that has served Indonesia well in its development is that it has continued to engage in global trade, in the global economy. And what's nice about these efforts for promoting downstreaming is that it's an attempt to move Indonesia up the value ladder to create new exports, one that will have higher sophistication, higher complexity, and higher value added. We wish Indonesia well in those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henry Ma. Pak Ignatius, boleh menjawab pertanyaan ini juga. Jadi apa yang harus dilakukan untuk mengedepankan atau mendorong hilirisasi yang memiliki nilai tambah yang tinggi di daerah dengan tetap mengedepankan isu lingkungan?
Baik, terima kasih. Dalam konteks peran daripada pemerintah provinsi maupun pemerintah kabupaten, di sini kami pemerintah pusat dalam konteks Kementerian Perindustrian di dalam Undang-Undang Nomor 3 2014 yang mana bahwa Undang-Undang Perindustrian ini tidak hanya bagaimana pendalaman struktur industrinya, tapi juga bagaimana percepatan penyebaran pemerataan industri di seluruh NKRI. Dalam konteks bagaimana kita mendorong pemerintah provinsi untuk mempunyai rencana pembangunan industri provinsi yang mana punya industri prioritas provinsi, demikian juga dengan kabupaten, sehingga pengintegrasian daripada pembangunan industri nasional betul-betul merupakan rantai pasok yang saling mengisi di antara provinsi maupun kabupaten. Demikian juga dalam skala prioritas nasional. Sehingga ini kuncinya bagaimana pemerintah daerah bisa menerapkan prioritas bahan bakunya, karena sumber daya alam itu kan di wilayah kerja mereka, dan juga kesiapan sumber daya manusianya di daerah ini sangat dibutuhkan. Sebenarnya yang oleh Pak Alexander Barus tadi menyampaikan bahwa beliau telah membangun suatu kawasan industri di Morowali, Kabupaten. Ini sangat mengenerate suatu kehidupan kabupaten kota. Demikiannya peran daripada pemerintah daerah, yaitu bagaimana menyiapkan fasilitas umum dan fasilitas sosialnya, sehingga terjadi harmoni terhadap lingkungan dan sosialnya. Yang ini yang kami kerjasamakan dengan UNIDO dalam konteks aspek ekonomi, lingkungan maupun sosialnya dalam Eco-Industrial Park. Ini yang kami bisa sampaikan, Pak pendapat. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih. Thank you again, and thank you for all speakers that concluded our Q&A session. Again, thank you to Mr. Solikin M. Juhro, Mr. Ignatius Warsito, Mr. Henry P. Ma, and Mr. Alexander Barus, and also all participants who have delivered questions. And let's give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, and virtually as well to all the speakers and participants. And I would also like to apologize that we cannot accommodate all questions because of the time limit, but allow me to summarize a bit of our discussion today. First of all, it's important to strengthen the downstream industries to expand its benefit to the economy with high value-added exports and import substitution. And of course, several structural challenges ahead. First, production factor improvement, quality mismatch of existing metal industries products with the automotive industry supply chain, and a solution is build cooperation with large industries through business matching or link and match schemes. Second, regulation and institution. Import tariff policy has not supported the development of the downstream industry, and low utilization of downstream products. Green industry standards are not yet available, so the solution is the making of green industry standards needs acceleration, tariff harmonization for incentive downstream industries development. And for the market access, imposition of anti-dumping tariffs by a number of countries, and downstream towards green energy development is still limited in the midst of its huge demand potential, then the solution is encouraging the expansion of these incentives for exports by increasing export duties. And also, low carbon financing instruments or green sustainable financing are available, but operationally cannot be accessed or utilized optimally by industrial sectors. So there's a need for technology, recommendation, and machinery restructuring with low carbon technology and advanced technology that is energy efficient, and of course, assistance and training as well as consulting to improve mitigation efforts need to be enhanced with funding support. And of course, to let both the government and the private sector know the complex products that Indonesia is already exporting successfully and the complex products that Indonesia could potentially export successfully. So the key questions is to ask when deciding whether or not the private sector needs some type of assistance or incentive is whether there is a market failure that constrains the private sector. So role of government is very crucial here to provide public inputs to address market failures and as well as to activities, not to sectors, to the new ones with spillover potential in exchange for performance like export growth target, upgrading, etc. and also under some principles and involve the private sector discussing incentive and understanding constraint and foster competition. So, ladies and gentlemen, together we have followed a very comprehensive discussion on the topic of Recover Stronger, shifting toward higher value added industry from Indonesia's and also global perspective. Again, thank you to all speakers and participants, and that's the end of today's panel discussion. And now, back to you, Ms. Devi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Solikin M. Juhro, Mr. Henry Pima, Mr. Ignatius Warsito, and also Mr. Tommy Chokro for enlightening views and fruitful discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the end of today's seminar. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank all speakers, moderator, discussants for delivering such valuable insight. And for all the participants, we also would like to extend deepest appreciation to you for your support and engagement throughout the event. Last but not least, we would like to remind you that we have a series of 2022 G20 Indonesia side events, and the closer one is in this February. In line with this, we would like to ask your kind participation in supporting the continuity of the agenda. Once again, thank you very much. Apologize if there is any inconvenience during the seminar, and we wish you all a pleasant day. We hope to see you again on our series of seminar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.